Enter. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our presentation, Time to Get Designated. We're going to focus on the payroll compliance professional designation today. It's a pleasure to be here with you. My name is Stephen Van Alstyne. I am the Vice President of Professional Standards and Education here at the National Payroll Institute. And with me is my colleague, Chris Pacella, who is the Manager of Professional Accreditation. Chris, why don't you say hello?
Hello, everyone.
So Chris and I like to tag team on these presentations. I'm going to sort of cover some core content on our PCP designation. And we're basically just going to have an opportunity for you as participants to ask any questions that you might have. We're just going to take some pauses throughout the presentation. We also have in our public relations team, we have Jamie Findley with us as well. So we're happy to be part of the National Payroll Institute, part of the team that offers the payroll compliance professional designation. And so without further ado, we're just going to get into to the program or to the presentation. So what are we going to cover today? We're going to talk a little bit about payroll as a career and why we feel it's a rewarding career. We're going to talk a little bit about the details on our institute, who we are and what role we play within the designations. What is a payroll designation? What that path to becoming payroll designated is, and then how you can get started. Now, some of you might already be in payroll. You might have maybe initiated your path on designation and you want to just maybe get some questions answered. But we're here to address any questions that you might have. And we want to make this as interactive as possible. So please don't be shy about putting your questions in the Q&A box. So a career in payroll. So why do people choose payroll as a career? Payroll is absolutely an emerging profession. It's gone from being perceived as administrative to much more of a professional career level. So if I could use myself as an example, I started in payroll probably about 35 years ago when I started with the Canada Post Corporation as a payroll clerk. And I didn't find payroll. Payroll kind of found me. An opportunity became available, and I decided to explore that opportunity because I thought Canada Post Corporation would be a good organization to work for. But honestly, from the very beginning, I kind of fell in love with the role because it involved legislation. It involved, every pay period was different. It involved being able to interact with employees within the organization. And quite frankly, we come to realize fairly quickly that we really make a difference in the lives of the individuals that we're paying on a pay period by pay period basis. So I think that's kind of why I came to payroll. But outside of that, as I said, through that time, so I've been with our institute for close to 30 years. Really, we've been working to establish payroll as an emerging profession, and we've been raising the bar of the profession, and it is certainly becoming much more recognized within business. It's also becoming an in-demand career. Every company obviously pays employees, and many companies have benefits to administer. So this helps in terms of when you're making a determination of a direction you want to take with your career. Establishing a career that really is going to provide you with that job security, even though we're hearing things about artificial intelligence and how that's kind of having an impact on organizations and roles. Payroll is always going to be one of those things that's going to require that human interaction, even if there are certain elements of the role that can be where you can leverage technology and advance through technology. There's many types of jobs that are associated with payroll knowledge, whether it's processing, whether it's management, whether it's, analysis, data analytics, sales. But there's also the human resources side of things, bookkeeping and accounting positions that might have an element of payroll that is included within them. We've also just completed a competency framework. And that competency framework looks at what is it that is really required from a core competency perspective to be successful within payroll. And certainly our organization is going to help provide you with those things like the tools and skills necessary to deliver the payroll, the kind of things you have to do to ensure compliance, and then just basically serving our customers, which are the employees of our organizations that we pay, and then other parts of the business, strategically partnering with them. In terms of salary, payroll has certainly is starting to establish itself as a profession that provides good starting salaries and good salaries in general. The average starting salary for payroll is in excess of $60,000, and that's based on Robert Half salary guide information, and it can progress upwards of $80,000 to $90,000. Payroll managers and supervisors are making close to that $100,000 mark, and that can go above, again, depending on the size and scope of the organization, that can certainly go above and beyond that initial six-figure salary. So who are the individuals that are getting designated? I want to introduce you to Anne Lee. Now, Anne was originally, when she became designated, in British Columbia. And we'd like to use Anne as our story because for a couple of reasons. First of all, Anne completed the designation because she was in accounting, but she'd noticed that others in her office had taken the time to become designated. So she was with a fairly large organization. She was also involved with our association and discovered that a lot of individuals within her branch or her area within British Columbia were designated. So she thought it was time to take the step of going beyond just her accounting background and getting that payroll designation. So as an accounting supervisor, she found the payroll courses allowed her to grow professionally, so beyond just the accounting role, to increase her confidence in doing payroll and answering employee questions, and basically benefit again financially through a raise because of the designation that she was holding. She is one of countless examples that are committed to her payroll designation and enjoyed the benefits of it. And that brings me to the second part of this story, and that is that Anne ended up moving to the east coast of Canada, to Nova Scotia. And because she had that designation, and because the designation doesn't just focus strictly on British Columbia or Alberta or Ontario, she was able to, the skills were very transferable. So Anne very quickly got a role in Nova Scotia as a payroll professional, again, due in large part to her designation. So who are we? Who is the National Payroll Institute? We are a membership-based organization. We are an association that was founded in 1978. And similar associations include some of what we call our influencer associations, like or influencer professions like human resources. So the Human Resource Professionals Association, the Canadian Dental Association. There's lots of associations that exist because they represent a profession. We are obviously experts in payroll legislation and payroll best practice. We're highly respected in the payroll profession and by government and academic institutions that we partner with to offer our programs. We offer a comprehensive designation program and a wide variety of both online and in-class professional development options as well that are supports to the designation programs for continuing professional education, but a lot of individuals use those professional development programs as sort of their first step into that path to designation. We also keep our members up to date on any legislative changes that are taking place, federal and provincial, and we've got lots of tools and resources that are provided to establish payroll best practices in organizations. We advocate to the government on behalf of our members to make payroll processing and administration more efficient. And there's some major projects that we're working on with the federal government right now that are going to bring a lot of efficiency and streamlining to how payroll is delivered. But again, it's never going to take away the role of payroll itself or the necessity of that role within organizations. So the Institute was established, as we said, over 45 years ago. We're actually one of Canada's top associations because we've got over 40,000 members. So we've got a combination of organizations that have individuals on their roster, as well as individuals who are professional members or associate members. So we number in excess of 40,000 individuals that we represent. This slide, I'm happy to say, because we've just got some recent data where we pushed over 17,000 designated professionals. So we've just tipped over that 17,000 mark. So that's a pretty considerable group of individuals that hold the designation. Now, all 17,000 of those individuals hold the PCP, but there's another close to 4,000 individuals that have the payroll leadership professional designation, which is obviously the next sort of level of designation. And we have got a very specific presentation that covers off that designation for those that move through PCP and want to advance even further within the profession with that designation. We had in 2022 close to 1,300 graduates, but Chris, I think you've got some updated information on that as well.
Yes, I do. In 2023, we had 1,316 new PCP graduates.
So that's fantastic. So again, obviously there's individuals that are retiring or individuals that might be changing profession, but we're constantly bringing new graduates into the fold, and that's why our numbers obviously keep increasing. So Chris, do we have any questions as yet? We've been covering sort of a lot of background information, but I just thought I'd take a pause to see if we have any questions. Chris? We lost Chris temporarily, I think. You there, Chris? You're on mute.
There we are. Sorry about that.
There we go.
No, we don't currently have any questions.
Okay, terrific. So let's carry on. And again, please don't be shy about asking any questions that you might have. So the Institute is considered the leader in payroll education through our designation programs, through our professional development. And while payroll service and software providers such as ADP and Dayforce and Payworks and Workday are the ones who actually have the technology that process the payroll, ensure your bank account receives that direct deposit information, the knowledge obtained from designation courses is going to allow individuals to understand legislation and make sure that the remittance requirements, the actual net pay deposits and accounts are correct on any system or technology that is utilized. Both payroll professionals and service providers rely on the Institute to keep them up to date. Professionals for knowing the rules of employment, for example, proper overtime rules, and service providers for ensuring that their programs are compliant with new government legislation. And that includes things like the formulas that are utilized to actually calculate the income taxes. So for any of you that have delved a little more deeply into that, the formulas that are utilized to calculate the actual taxation from province to province, the Canada Revenue Agency obviously is the gatekeeper for all of that. But there's very complex formulas that are involved in coming up with the ultimate tax calculations. And obviously the systems are configured in order to do that correctly, but legislative knowledge is kind of a key component of that. So these things are all working in synergy with one another on that basis. So the payroll compliance professional, or the PCP for short, is the foundation for a career in payroll and essential for anyone that is processing or administering payroll in Canada. As I said before, that's sort of your what we would call the foundation of knowledge for payroll. And that's where you get into the actual delivery of payroll. Training is important in any profession. You wouldn't obviously be, as we've already mentioned, the Dental Association, a dental hygienist or a dentist or an electrician or an accountant without education. And obviously payroll is no exception. The National Payroll Institute also has that management level designation, the PLP that I spoke about, and the PCP is a prerequisite for moving on to the PLP. These seals obviously do represent, or they are a sign of expertise and professionalism that is becoming more and more recognized by business leaders across the country. And it does represent a vibrant community of payroll professionals that obviously everybody is proud to be a part of. So there's so many reasons why somebody would want to be designated. First of all, job readiness. You can be hired and perform at a high level. More attractive to employers, that they can be sure you're competent for the comprehensive education and knowledge that you've got. And you're going to have more confidence and earn respect from your colleagues holding that designation. So we find that a lot of individuals who embark on this path are very proud when they get those letters and are able to utilize those letters in their signature, on their business cards, through their interactions with colleagues and networking. And it's always a great conversation starters when individuals ask, what do those letters represent? And oftentimes our designated members are very proud to share exactly what goes into getting those letters. So as we said earlier, the designations do provide an opportunity for you to earn more or accelerate your earning potential. Payroll compliance professionals can expect to earn an average of $10,000 more every year. And if you consider over a decade, that's six figures over the course of a decade that an individual can earn just by holding the designation. But more importantly, it does represent, again, a level of knowledge, a level of expertise, and provides a level of comfort to those organizations that you're serving. So it makes sense that your remuneration would reflect that. The National Payroll Institute did conduct some research, and we went to HR professionals through Angus Reid. And from that research, we know that 81% of HR professionals say those with a payroll designation should expect a higher starting salary. So that's right from HR. The compensation folks, and 79% agree that they would use a designation to break a tie between two otherwise equal candidates. So if you've got individuals that are competing for a role at an organization, the designation is going to be a differentiator in who the organization decides on in 8 out of 10 situations. So I think that's a pretty good qualifier for why somebody would advantage from holding the designation. So here's a testimonial from one of our designation holders, Sharon. And Sharon said, once I started the first PCP course, everything seemed to fall into place. I now began to fully understand Canadian payroll. It was like a light went off. I was now armed with information that enabled me to carry out my duties with confidence and accuracy. And this is just feedback that we receive over and over again. Payroll professionals that have basically gained confidence and ability by completing that designation program. Here's another testimonial from a graduate who actually works in the human resource field and decided to take the step of getting their payroll designation as well. And we're seeing a lot of this where we've got individuals in HR that get payroll, individuals in finance that get the payroll designation, a lot of individuals within the bookkeeping industry who decide to take the step of getting the payroll designation. So Madura said, my designation gave me confidence, knowledge, and it made other people listen to me and respect my recommendations. It allowed me to actively participate in discussions with more senior and executive management levels. And furthermore, it allowed me to make changes in my company. So again, empowerment. Knowledge is power. It really is. And Madura talks about having that voice after being designated and just feeling like she was more valued at work. And that's obviously something, or an environment that we all would want to work in. So here is the pathway to getting designated. And this is often where some questions might pop up. So the payroll compliance professional designation consists of 4 courses, and those 4 courses are numbered on the slide. payroll compliance legislation, which is the introductory course and talks about all of the legislation that's required and some of the elements of what is included within payroll. Payroll Fundamentals 1, which is really payroll from the employee perspective. So it's really that gross to net pay calculation and everything that's involved in between, whether that be earnings, bonuses, overtime, vacation pay, taxable benefits. And there's a myriad of different taxable benefits that individuals can have, and they have to be obviously treated compliantly through that legislation. And then all of the deductions that come off related to that, and ultimately coming to that net pay. Payroll Fundamentals 2 is payroll from the organizational perspective. So it's all of the remittance requirements, the remittances that you have to make to the federal government, if you have Quebec payrolls, to the Quebec government, and to sometimes provincial governments, depending on which provincial jurisdictions you operate in. Again, the foundational course and designation provide you with all of those elements. So you can really, because again, we have individuals, let's say you're from Alberta, but you have an organization that operates in every provincial jurisdiction. It's important that you have that foundational knowledge of all of the legislation in every province. Now, you may also work in Alberta and only have or work for an organization that has an Alberta payroll, but you are armed with all of the information from right across the country that enables you to move from province to province, or sometimes an organization will acquire another part of an organization or expand into other provinces. So you've got that foundational knowledge that will make you effective in the organization to be able to handle that situation. We also have a requirement that individuals have an introduction to accounting course. Now that is a transfer credit. So we at the Institute don't offer accounting courses ourselves because we're not accounting experts, we're payroll experts. And you can take this course at any post-secondary academic institution that offers some type of accounting course. Oftentimes it's called Introduction to Accounting, but it does not have to be just called Introduction to Accounting. There's different courses. But as long as they meet our learning objectives, and we've got a repository of schools that have courses that meet those requirements. We have a team, a credentialing team that looks at all of the courses that may not be listed to determine if those meet that requirement. So you have to go through that kind of transfer of credit process and show a transcript that proves you've taken that course. And again, that course is one that meets our transfer of credit criteria. These 4 courses collectively then give students the knowledge needed to process payroll both federally and in any province, as I said. Most importantly, Quebec has a fairly unique set of requirements. So knowing that Quebec requirement, I think even if you don't process Quebec payroll, is very important. It helps actually some people to appreciate that they don't have to administer Quebec payrolls because it is a very different process. The final step here outside of the academic requirements is the work experience requirement. So we do, in order to get the designation, the final step in, and some people come to the courses already having worked in payroll, so you already might have that work experience requirement. Others need to acquire it, especially if you're looking to get into the payroll field. You might have to work at an organization and build that experience requirement. So it's what we call a weighted 1-year experience requirement. So you need to work for an organization where you're doing payroll on a weighted basis for at least a year. So somebody might be only doing payroll half of the time as an example. So it would take that individual 2 years to get their work experience requirement because it's weighted. Again, we've got a process where that's all evaluated, and you can do that over the course of 5 years, get that work experience requirement. As I say, some people already have it, some people might be partway through it, and some people are getting it fresh, but everybody has that from the point of taking their first course has a 5-year time trajectory to be able to do that. Chris,
Okay,
do we have
Stephen.
any
Oh my
questions?
goodness.
Yeah.
That slide always generates all sorts of questions.
Fantastic,
Are
fantastic.
you ready? So we have a question about whether or not the examinations are open or closed book, and how much memorization is going to be required.
Yeah, this is always a big question that we get. Sorry. Chris, what's showing on my screen?
Convenient course options?
Yeah, I don't know why that did that.
Hmm.
There we go. There we go. We're good.
Okay.
So I'm just going to back up to the previous slide. With regard to the open book, because we get a lot of feedback on this, quite honestly, but like any other academic programs that you take, and I know there are some that do offer open book options, but we're wanting individuals to internalize their learning, learn about how, the intricacies of how you actually have to administer payroll. So these examinations are closed book as a result of that. Now, some will say, well, if I'm actually looking up a piece of employment standards legislation, and for those of you that have exposure to employment standards legislation or labor standards legislation, it's fairly weighty because it covers off things like overtime, vacation, termination. So there's a lot of information there. And if you know, there's different legislation in every provincial and territorial jurisdiction. So there's a lot of information there. That's probably one of the biggest chapters we've got in our designation, PCP designation program. We do not expect you to memorize all of that legislation. So the things that you would expect people should be able to know, we want people to know, like if an individual earns X amount of dollars, what would the CPP deduction be on that? People should know how to calculate that. And again, if through learning, you're going to learn how to calculate that. So that aspect of your learning does require some level of understanding, functionality, memorization, but we're not asking you to memorize, mountains of provincial labor and employment standards legislation. So we make that very clear in the program, what you're expected to have knowledge of and what you don't need to memorize. But there is the bottom line is that the exams, midterm and final, are closed book.
Perfect. And we have a question about group assignments as part of the online classes.
So with the PCP program, there are no group assignments. There are assignments because, again, part of what we're trying to develop skills in is communication. So really the focus of the assignments is communication. What happens if a piece of legislation changes? How do you communicate that to the organization? How do you communicate that to your employees? So that's often accomplished through a submission of assignments, but those are individual assignment submissions. So at the PCP level, there is no group work. Now, that being said, you can certainly form groups to have conversations about content to help build understanding. We really encourage that. But when you're making your submissions, those have to be individual submissions. They're not group. Once you get to the PLP level, because you're dealing with leadership, you're dealing with teams, you're dealing with working and group dynamics, there is more group work at that level. But for PCP, it is individual submissions and individual evaluation.
Excellent. Lots of questions about accounting. So many questions about accounting. So if I'm working in accounting, does that qualify? If I've completed a course a lot of years ago, can that qualify? If I completed a course in the United States, can that qualify?
All excellent questions. And so if you've completed a course a number of years ago, we will consider that course as long as you sort of can demonstrate that you've been utilizing your knowledge. Because again, if you've taken a course 20 years ago, you've never used what you learned, how good is that information serving you? But if you can demonstrate that you've, been able to apply that knowledge recently or relatively recently, then we'll accept that course. The interesting thing, well, not the interesting thing, the thing about accounting is that it is very universal. That's why we've got GAT principles with accounting. So we will evaluate courses that are taken in other jurisdictions, like other countries, but you have to submit the learning objectives from the course, and then the transcript. So those are evaluated and oftentimes will be approved. Individuals that work in an organization that have been working in accounting, if you are a designated accountant, we will accept that. But just saying like, I have accounting experience is not going to be enough. We do need to see that you've taken a course or that you have demonstrated. Obviously, taking a course because there's a mark associated with it is what we're looking for there.
Excellent. And if you go in to our website, there is a database of courses that are accepted. If your course is not listed, you can submit a course outline along with the transcript and get the courses independently reviewed by us to determine if it's going to qualify.
Yeah.
Excellent. Do you want more questions now or later?
Why don't we take a pause from the questions? We'll carry on, and then we'll return to some questions, if that's okay, Chris, unless there's something burning.
Nope, we're good.
Okay, so the great thing about our program is that we do have flexibility in how you can take the program. So there's 3 great ways you can take it. Now, when we say in class, I'm going to put in class in quotes because it's not a physical classroom necessarily. So we do have a lot, I mean, prior to the pandemic, a good majority of our courses that were done in class were literally physically done in class. But post-pandemic, a lot of, because we're offering courses in continuing studies commonly in colleges, they are done through virtual classrooms. So they are what we call synchronous, because you go into the virtual classroom and you're learning through an instructor, and that's a dedicated class every week. But the great thing about that post-pandemic is that you don't, if the course is being offered by an academic institution in Calgary, for example, you could be in Ontario taking that course. You could be in Vancouver taking that course. So it does provide a lot more flexibility with options. Because, you know, for example, if you're taking a course at Fanshawe College in London, and it's only on Tuesday night, but you've got something that conflicts with that on Tuesday night, well, you can look to other academic institutions across the country, and barring, you know, time zone changes, it gives you a lot more flexibility of when you can take it, because a lot of academic institutions are offering it on different days of the week. So again, that gives you some great flexibility. We do have some schools that do offer the classes in a physical classroom, but the majority of them now, the public academic institutions, are offering them virtually, but synchronously. We also have our online option that is done through us at the National Payroll Institute. So these individuals who are instructing these courses are instructors, our National Payroll Institute instructors. They're often individuals who've worked within the payroll field. They are what we call asynchronous, in that they're more of a self-paced course, but you do have to meet certain milestones throughout the course. So you have to submit assignments on a particular date. There's a suggestion of the timing of absorbing the content, because there is an incredible amount of content to absorb. So we suggest you don't save it and kind of information load, because that's a lot of information to absorb. So we do give a syllabus that suggests the timing of when you deal with this information. But as I say, there's assignments that are due, there's discussion board postings that are due. There is a midterm. So you do certainly have to have covered off that information, or you won't be as successful. And then there's a final. We have instituted, because again, since the pandemic, we've found that individuals do want more interactivity. We have instituted some learning opportunities where the instructors do make themselves available through our own online course at least 3 times through the course. And if you can't participate in those live, they are recorded. So you can certainly participate in those outside of them being live. And then the last way is, let's say you've worked in payroll, you feel like you've got a significant knowledge. then you can challenge the courses. So you can actually, basically, you don't have to do the assignments. You don't have to do a midterm. You don't have to absorb or deal with the information over a 13-week period, 14-week period. You just basically write the exam. So when you've got the information, you've looked at it, you feel ready to write the exam, you can just go and write the exam. The exam is worth 100% of your mark. So again, many options in which you can take the courses, and obviously you as a learner should be able to assess what might work best for you. So are there any questions on that? On any of those options, Chris?
The questions are more around the work experience. Lots of stuff on the work experience. There's also one, someone wants to test your payroll software knowledge, Stephen. Are you ready for that?
On my payroll software knowledge.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's give that a whirl.
It's an independent software like Sage. Would it have the option to enable direct deposit to an employee?
That is a great question. Like, I know that obviously a more globalized solution like ADP or Dayforce or Workday, those absolutely do. I would suggest that they would, but again, that would be a speculation. So, but most of those enterprise-wide type of softwares and service providers do offer that functionality.
Lovely. All right. So let's talk work experience.
Yeah, why don't we spend some time talking about that?
Okay. People want to know, how do I get work experience? How can someone prove that they have work experience? Do they use a job letter, or do we call the owner of the business? Some people are not completing the full payroll cycle as part of their job. How can I get myself designated? Questions like that.
Yeah, so I will say that the information we provide on our website is there's some great information from the experience perspective, because we do look at different areas of experience and get individuals. So what we've got is we've got an online technology that basically it has an algorithm in it that will assess your area of experience in a number of areas. So, do you have experience with terminations, with year end, with remittances, those kinds of things? So we do want people who've got that more broad exposure to payroll, because if you just had one sort of dimensional aspect of delivering payroll, that really doesn't constitute experience. So that breakdown is available on our website for anybody to take a look at, so that you get an idea of what it is that we're looking for from an experience perspective. But there is this online system does enable you to go in and it's like checking the areas that you've got experience in, how long you've done it, what the organization is, who the supervisor or manager is, and then that system will initiate a call out to those individuals to verify. So we call them verifiers. They will verify the experience that the individual had. So we've had we've had no issues with how our system works. It works very effectively. And again, it does push out that information to those verifiers to say, this particular individual has indicated that they worked here. This is what they did. Can you verify that this is in fact correct? So that is done through a system. So it's a fairly, we make the process obviously as efficient as possible. So Chris, do you have anything to add about how the system works for experience determination?
No, that's great. Yeah, there's the verifier. So the system reaches out to your employer and asks them to confirm, and they take a look at your submission, and then the actual experience submission is reviewed by an individual here on staff, and that's how we do it. You do need to submit an individual application for each position that you've had. So if you change companies, you submit more than one application. Stephen, people would like to know if they've never worked in payroll, how do they get their foot in the door?
Oh, that's right. That was an element of the question that you asked. So, this is probably the biggest challenge of any person who's doing any program. We obviously, when we do education or we're taking a program, we don't come with experience. At some point we have to build experience. We have to have that first opportunity. We do a really great job here at the Institute in terms of supporting individuals who are on the career path toward payroll, to getting a payroll role, to being successful in that role, to advancing their skills, growing their skills. So we offer a lot of career development tools to individuals, to preparing for interviews, to doing interviews, to crafting a resume, and then a lot of webinars that offer supports as well with regard to all of this. We also have a mentorship program that individuals can participate in to match themselves up with a mentor that can help them down that road to getting those first opportunities and trying those opportunities. We've got a Job Connect service where organizations can post job opportunities. But really, it's like anything else. If any of you, some of you might be coming to payroll as a new career opportunity, and you've already been working. So basically, you know what you had to do when you've got your first job. So there's nothing different here. You basically have to take opportunities, evaluate opportunities, get those entry-level positions to sort of get your foot in the door. When I came to payroll, I had zero experience, no experience whatsoever in payroll. But it doesn't take long for you to get those opportunities. Again, coming into an organization, getting paired up with somebody who has that experience, growing, learning. That's where the mentor comes to play a very important role. So I think it's just, again, you can't expect that roles are going to kind of drop into your lap. But if you do it right and you follow some of these tactics that we've sort of put in place to assist you, I think there's every opportunity for people to be successful within this profession.
Excellent.
Okay, so let's move on. Now, our next slide happens to be on frequently asked questions. So these, again, are some other questions that we get asked commonly. So, how long is each course? So each course is about 13 weeks in length. If I've already taken Introduction to Accounting, again, we've talked about the exemption and the ability to provide that information and do the transfer of credit. The requirements on work experience, we've spent some time talking about. So we won't go into any more detail on that unless there's additional questions. And again, we can certainly cover those off. We feel that, when we look at other professions, we feel that we are a very well-priced designation. You can get your designation basically for under $2,000. Now, the transfer of credit cost is relatively inexpensive. But taking the accounting course obviously may have a bit of an additional cost to it. But again, a lot of people already come with that accounting credit in place. So it's, you can get the payroll side of things for under $2,000. So again, our online courses, the registration fee is just over $600. The challenge fee is just under $500. And public colleges, commonly we charge $350, but there's also the college fee. And a lot of those college tuitions, they vary, but we've got a lot of colleges in the Toronto area, which is where we're located. And a lot of them are under $400 for the course. So it is a little bit more expensive to take the program through the public college avenue. But again, keep in mind that you're in live courses, interactive courses. Even if they're virtual, there's still one-on-one learning. So a lot of people feel that that's certainly worth that investment. We do price our membership fees for those that are taking the course lower than usual membership fee. So we've got an actual membership fee that is called a candidate membership fee because you're a candidate for the designation, and it's very inexpensive as well. Okay. So how can you get started then? So if you would like to sign up for designation courses, the great news is that it's obviously we make it quick and easy. Sign up can be completed online at our website, www.payroll.ca. We accept all major credit cards on the website, giving you different payment options to choose from. Registration does close 5 business days before the course starts, so we do suggest you sign up early. The great news about our online offering through us at the Institute is that we've got courses that literally start every month. Each course starts on a different day of the month, but those courses are starting. So we've got 12 courses in a year for payroll compliance legislation, 12 courses for Payroll Fundamentals 1, 12 courses for Payroll Fundamentals 2. So, so there's lots of flexibility in terms of being able to start your course. The public college courses tend to start more on terms. So January, April, May, and September are usually when those courses start. So those are usually offered 3 times a year, and different academic institutions may offer them all 3 times. Some may offer them once. Again, it's really going to depend on the academic institution. So we've got all of those academic institutions listed on our website. So we recommend that if you're looking at that avenue, that you explore it that way. So I think without anything else to cover specifically, sorry, we're going to just open the floor up for any more questions that get asked. And then our last slide is just basically an informational slide on our website and who you can reach out to if you have additional questions. So Chris, let's just open the floor up to some questions now.
Absolutely. So I've got a question. I am almost done with PF2 and I already have the credit for the introductory to accounting. I've been in payroll for the last 4 years. How do I apply for the designation? I'll cover that.
Yeah,
so,
please. Thanks, Chris.
With the courses completed, once you've completed the courses, you want to submit your transfer credit and get that accepted. Once that is accepted, it automatically triggers the application for the work experience requirement. And then you would submit those applications, get them verified by your employer. And then once you've got all the educational requirements done and the experience requirements done, and you're an active member, that's when you'll be sent the notice that you can apply for designation.
Right.
Okay. What happens if you challenge a course and fail it?
Well, I guess it's like any other course, whether you challenge it or whether you take it through us, you fail, you'd have to take the course again. Sometimes what we find is individuals may challenge a course, may not be as successful, and realize that they may need a more in-depth course to learn. So sometimes that is an indicator that they may need to take the course in the 13-week configuration, either through an academic institution or through us online. So so we don't have rewrites. You would have to take, either challenge the course again or take the course in one of those other delivery methodologies.
I've got the flip side of that as a question as well. If someone is unsuccessful in a course, do you recommend they repeat the full course or challenge the exam?
Oh, yeah, Chris, why don't you share your experience? Because we have people that do both.
Absolutely. I think it really has to do with how close the individual is to passing. If you just missed it by a little bit or you had a bad day on the examination, then probably the challenge is the way to go, because it'll allow you to have some additional time. You already have some familiarity with the material. You can read through the material, prep for the exam, and get yourself ready. If you didn't feel prepared for the examination after going through the course. If there's some of the fundamentals that you're still not grasping, then definitely I would recommend completing the full course.
Excellent.
Okay. We've got, are your courses through Brightspace?
Oh, excellent. Like, yeah, and they're actually through Brightspace. So we just moved to Brightspace as our academic learning management system partner in 2023, and that is who we offer our courses through. So we've made that shift over to Brightspace, and we're in the process of leveraging all of the great functionality that exists in Brightspace. But a lot of academic institutions in Canada use Brightspace to deliver their programs, and we are using Brightspace, a good Canadian company.
Absolutely. Lots of questions about the accounting course and when can it be submitted? Different institutions, like if I qualify for the CPA exam in the United States, does that cover off the accounting academic requirement? I recommend contacting the credentialing department here at the National Payroll Institute. Everyone's got a little bit of a different scenario, and we can give you a very direct answer on all of those things, rather than in a setting such as this.
Yeah.
How much time does it usually take to complete the process of a transfer credit course? And what about a work permit verification for international students?
Yeah, the international student question, I'm not as conversant with. I would recommend that because again, we offer our courses not just through public academic institutions, we offer them through private colleges, and oftentimes the private colleges are the ones that are dealing with the international students. So they're most adept at answering the questions around permits and work permits related to that. But I do know that there were a lot of students. There's a big number of students, international students, that have taken our program through private colleges. So definitely explore that with those colleges. And again, we've got a listing of academic partners that we partner with both on the public college side and the private college side. But in terms of transfer of credit and going through the courses and so on, we've got a very expedient process. So somebody's sending, I think we say 6 weeks, is our turnaround, but oftentimes we're turning those transcripts for transfer credits around much quicker than that. We don't guarantee it, but and again, it's going to be based on volumes as well. But I will say we're very efficient at turning this information around. Chris, did you have anything to add on any of that?
No, that's perfect. I mean, luckily there's a lot of volume. There's lots of people who are excited about becoming payroll professionals, and the team works very hard, very diligently at processing these things as expediently as possible. Let's see, questions about. A lot of questions about the challenge course and what do students have access to, especially do they get practice examinations, sample testing questions? Do they get access to the slides or the ebooks, things along those lines?
Chris, did you want to comment on that?
Sure.
Or yeah.
The challenge course does come with the slides and the course material. There are some resources, including a practice examination there, but it does not have the same extent of resources available as the online course, which has a lot more practice questions, quizzes, assignments, tasks, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Again, when individuals challenge the courses, there is an assumption that there's, obviously a level of experience and knowledge there that lends itself to not requiring as much depth and as exposure to sort of what the learning management system might provide. So while you get access to the curriculum, there's certain test or sort of exercise or task questions that we allow access to. Again, that there is an assumption that there is a knowledge base there, so you don't get as much benefit as the students would who are taking the course over a number of weeks.
I've got a question about internships. Does NPI offer an internship to help people get hired for a payroll job?
So we have piloted internship programs through time. Internship programs take a significant amount of resource. So we don't have a formal internship program at this point in time at the Institute. But I will say that in our career development area, we have got some fantastic resources and initiatives that we're starting to employ. For example, we've got some great relationships with some recruitment firms. So we're taking students from different areas of the country and introducing them to those recruiters who, again, have very specific clients that are looking for and willing to take new students on board in roles. So we periodically get asked for those opportunities and do work to sort of match students up with those opportunities. And I think what we're going to see over time is we're going to see that start to accelerate.
Wonderful. Total cost. What's the total cost to get the PCP designation?
So as I mentioned earlier, I would say it's approximately $2,000, which again is very reasonable to get a designation. That is excluding what the tuition might be for an introduction to accounting course. Again, some people already come because they've done a business degree or diploma or certificate. They already come with that accounting course, or they might have taken it a number of years ago. So again, they're not having to take it again, but you still have to do the transfer of credit, which there's a nominal cost for. But it is, again, a very relative to other professions, a relatively inexpensive designation to obtain. And we quote around $2,000.
Excellent. I got a couple more for you, not too much. For the final exams, are they online at your own pace or are they at a proctored exam center?
So we again, the great thing about technology and the swift advancements that we made based on the pandemic. Now, prior to the pandemic, there was e-proctoring that existed, but it's certainly the pandemic accelerated it. We have now introduced an e-proctoring system, an online proctoring system. So every individual, and again, individuals have to sign off on the e-proctoring system, show ID, go through all of those steps that you would anticipate you would in an e-proctoring system. And so there's no necessity to show up at a physical location. Obviously, you just have to have the technology that has the camera that enables you to sort of be monitored during that e-proctoring process as if you were in an actual exam writing center. So we've made our process very convenient. We've got a great technology partner who works with us on the e-proctoring system. And again, it's just meant to ensure that individuals are following the requirements that we've got, that the exam be closed book, that you don't have obviously outside resources assisting you, that it's your sort of brain power that is being used to complete the exam. So so that's what our process is.
Wonderful. I think that's about it. Yeah, we're just about out of time.
Yeah.
So that's probably a good place to stop. If anyone has further questions, or if we didn't get a chance to answer your question live, please reach out to us at there it is, accreditation@payroll.ca, or you can give us a call. We have people available on the phones from 8:30 until 5 or 6 o'clock Eastern time, and always happy to answer your questions. And especially if you have specifics about your case, where we can take a look and really review and give you a specific answer.
Great. Well, thank you, Chris. for another great presentation, and thank everybody for your participation. And best of luck on your decisions around the designation, but on your career within payroll. And we hope to see you at some of those designation celebration events that that we're going to be hosting in the future. So all the best, everybody, and thank you so much.
Thank you.